Hi, my name's Jane Evans. I'm the founder of the Uninvisibility project. We've been working on raising the profile of midlife women in media and the image of midlife women in advertising, and certainly our representation in business. For the pioneers of female careers, our careers have absolutely fallen off a cliff. And absolutely nothing has changed. In fact, in January this year, we had to run a GoFundMe campaign because a number of the women that we featured were facing eviction, bankruptcy, and just absolutely getting nowhere. Like any good startup, we decided that we need to pivot. So instead of making a lot of noise and shouting about how great we are, we just went, why don't we just create an ecosystem where women like us can set up businesses? So I'm a complete and utter lunatic that's opening up a comms agency in the middle of a pandemic. And all we had to do was change our launch plans, but not very much. We were never going to be doing the founders on the fire escape with crossed arm shots article and campaign. Our plan was always to do some work and show you. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been working on our first two small clients, both of whom have done social media campaigns for, all produced and ready and on air within 3 weeks. And we're also launching a podcast. Pay attention, little sister. Pay attention, little sister. Pay attention, little sister. Pay attention, pay attention, little sister. One of the reasons that we believe that midlife women are invisible is because we're ungoogleable. So we are creating the Pals podcast, where a younger woman in a career Googles some pioneer, somebody that started it off. So our first one is with Mara Marich, and Mara had the coolest job in the 90s. She was a writer at MTV in the epicenter of pop culture.
Welcome to the Red Room. And this woman is a big deal. A former writer-producer on MTV's famed New York team, she was pivotal to creative in the halcyon days of Fast and Furious ads.
The one thing that really came through the chat for me was when we were talking about younger creatives. And she said that she believed that a lot of them put up their own walls, that they put walls inside their head, that they restrict their own creativity. And as the conversation moved on, we quickly realized that you don't need to put walls up inside your head. The world provides the walls. And particularly at the moment, I think we can all see that the world is providing the walls. For women like us that were the pioneers of careers, we had so many walls put up for us that we really had to use all of our creative freedom to get around them. And I think that gives us an extra gift, especially at times like this. If I look at my own personal career, I was the first girl in the creative department more times than I'd like to say. And that was over a period of 10 years. I dealt with things like sexual harassment legislation coming into the workforce. The first 5 or 6 years of my career, it was open reign. We've all got horror stories, but we've all got stories of how we moved around it, how we drifted around it. Again, in the podcast, uh, Mara and I joke about how many sexist assholes we've worked with very successfully because we had to. I think the thing is in these times, and frankly, any time, is the world puts the walls around us. So, for me, I worked and worked and worked to be a creative director, but it was never going to happen. It was like the world wasn't ready, or Sydney at the time wasn't ready for a female creative director. And I was in my mid-30s, so I was expected to go off and have children. And at that time, there really wasn't a choice of, having a career and or certainly having a big career and having a family. And I didn't like that wall, so I worked around it, and I bought myself a massive, great big warehouse. And I started my family upstairs, and I started my business downstairs, and it was incredibly successful. We had clients like Maserati and Revlon. We created Australia's first craft beer, James Squire. And I think in 2001, we were the 19th most awarded agency in the Asia Pacific region, and the only independent on the list, which was pretty incredible for a tiny little agency staffed by 6 people, 5 of whom were women. It was very ahead of its time, but then the world put another wall up. I was in a highly abusive relationship and needed to escape quickly. The 2,500 square metre warehouse turned into a much smaller house with a stable block out the back where we worked. And I went from, being potentially droga 5 to a small little cottage industry. And actually that worked. As a single mother, I didn't need the big career. I had enough on my plate. I had clients that loved and adored me, who stayed with me all the way. And I had staff that had been with me for years that, we had a good thing. We just made it smaller and we made it work. And I think that's something that everybody needs to look at now of, do we need to make it smaller to make it work? We've been working remotely since 2006. One of my staff members was pregnant. And I always said to the women that were pregnant, don't tell me what your plans are for when you have a baby, because you've never had a baby before and you have absolutely no idea how you'll react. And Linda, the woman who was working with me at the time, was one who a week after giving birth rang me up and was like, Jane, I'm bored stupid. All this thing does is eat and sleep. I need some work. Can I come back to work? And unfortunately, the insurance at the time wouldn't allow us to have a baby in the place. So I said, well, why don't you work from home? So we transported all of her equipment over to her house. Email at the time was just getting to the point where it was usable, and internet had enough bandwidth that you could actually start communicating better. And she lived a mile up the road, so a bike courier would get CDs back and forwards for large files, because there certainly wasn't a capacity for it then. So the world put the walls up, but we went around it. And, once one of my staff went home and we found that it worked, all of us decided that we wanted to work from home. So yes, it's been 2006. It's been a long time that we've been doing it, so we have a lot of experience. I think particularly for people in the advertising industry, we've got to realize that things are going to change. And I think I am saying hallelujah, because I believe one management style is going to be lost completely. And it's actually the reason why I think modern advertising isn't anywhere near what it used to be. And that is, I call it the Anthony Robbins School of Management, where basically whoever shouts the loudest, says they're the greatest, gets to the top. I think that encourages very male traits, because I do not believe that women are as good at bravado, shall we say. I think bravado is out. It was really interesting. There was a top creative director the other day put up this clip.
You too?
Oh shit, somebody else got
No, not fucking bother then.
Sit down! Nobody talk! Sit down!
Bloody hell, I want you ready, lads, in about a minute, lads, eh?
If you became a top team, you have to score the fucking goal, guys.
If we don't fucking score, we don't score. But we will fucking score.
Please protect the players. It's only a yes to all the referees around the world, especially here in England. Protect the players.
Let's fucking get leathered in and do not shirk a fucking tackle. Fucking tackle!
Locker room is the nicest place to be. Nicest.
I don't like injured lads around the dressing room. I don't like anybody moving around the dressing room. Danny, go and get in, Basson. Go and out it way so I don't sit. It'll make me feel sick if I look at you.
Good afternoon. Today the team is Start, Ederson, Kyle, John, Nico.
Lids, you're on bench.
Of course, I'm going to defend you until the last day in our lives in the press conference.
I stick up for you lot every fucking week in press. I stick up and stick up.
You have to use sight to always finish within you.
Every time it's in their half and you're on halfway line having a fag.
So Crystal Palace, guys, is in 4 days.
I want to beat Plymouth so fucking much, lads.
31st, everybody thinking in the afternoon or with a party or something like that.
We don't want no fucking partying tonight or tomorrow morning or what have you.
Because you have to rest.
You want your fucking rest, your fucking food and everything, Dennis, don't we?
Well, you did it again. Thank you again, guys.
When do we need a fucking keeper? If we play like we are playing, I'm not bothered what happens with subs and all that, we're all... Is that busy looking fucking good?
Guys, enjoy it. No, believe me, guys. Come on.
By all means enjoy it, but enjoy it by being fucking disciplined here.
You have done a shit one now.
Come on, let's go again! 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now fucking come on!
Records broken and broken again!
of bollocks. You've got to fucking die to get 3 points. Fucking hell, what's the difference?
The difference for me is that sort of management only works for an A-League football team. And it should never, ever be translated into a work environment. And I would hope that when we're designing the new normal, that we start with empathetic leadership. I think a lot of egos are going to get destroyed through this. And I think that's actually a really good thing. I think our industry has been built way too much on egos. I think if our industry is built on empathy, not only for us, but for humanity, I think we can start to build a really hopeful future. I think another great thing that's going to come out of this is that we're actually going to finally realize that work isn't about being social. For 30 years, I've seen people with very little talent being promoted and given glittering careers because they're nice blokes to have down the pub, that they tell a good story, that they can beat their chest and, that they're charming or, but, at times like this, bravado gets you absolutely fucking nowhere. There isn't anybody to go down the pub with on a Friday night after work. So, I think this is going to weed out the people that really can do their jobs and the people that require the smoke and mirrors. From my experience, the best creatives have not been the ones that are fun at a pub on a Friday night. They're usually the ones that have disappeared home on a Friday because they're absolutely exhausted. And also the people that just want to get out of there on a Friday night because they want to go and see the people that they love because they actually know what's important in life. So my great hope in this is that we actually all start to recognize that work isn't the be all and end all. I think if any creative person asks what the new normal is going to be, then they're not a creative person. I think this is an opportunity for people to really start looking at their lives and their work and technology. And I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to see what is the world that we want to create? What is the work world we want to create? What is our home life we want to create? I think there are so many advantages coming out of this. One of the advantages for me is it gives us a chance to redefine our family. I have daughters who are 18 and 21, and we're currently in quarantine with my eldest boyfriend. And it's given us an opportunity to redefine who does what around here. They're cooking meals, they're emptying the dishwasher, and we've gone very much from being mum and her 2 kids to a group of people living in a house together. And that's been a real bonus for me. Even if you look at the reports of how we're going to get out of isolation, big, large companies in office blocks are not going to open for months, maybe even a year. So agencies and clients are going to have to seriously look at the way that they work. And I think this is really a time for highly experienced creatives to take the lead. And the reason why I say that is because we need to go back to how creativity used to be. I usually hate people that bemoan, oh, advertising used to be so much better in the 80s, because I don't think that's very productive. But I think at the moment it is very productive. And I think the biggest thing for me is that it used to be a team. 2 people were responsible for the idea, for the creativity, for how it was produced. And they were responsible for it every single way along the lines. And their careers were dependent upon the quality of that idea and the quality of the production of that idea. I think we're going to go back to that. I think we're going to go back to smaller teams with trusted teams, trusted creative, trusted producers, working with clients that recognize that they're going to have to take a few risks. The advantage, I think, at the moment is those risks aren't going to be anywhere near as expensive. I subscribe to the Ryan Reynolds school of advertising, and I think we all should be more Ryan Reynolds. That's spot an opportunity, recognize a great idea, just damn well get together and go and shoot it. And I think there's going to be a lot more of that. And I think there needs to be a lot more than that. Out of this, we're going to see human creativity. We already are. I mean, we're seeing videos and, amazing things. I think this absolutely levels the playing field for creatives. And I think any creative that doesn't take this as an opportunity is either an idiot or just isn't creative. No, I understand that not every creative is in a perfect life position at the moment. And I think we have to give space for those that are feeling fragile, those that are not as safe, those that are sick, those that are caring for people that are sick, or people that just have lived in the environment of advertising as it is at the moment and can't actually recognize that there is a bigger world. And I say there's a bigger world because as a creative that hasn't actually worked within agencies for many, many years, I'm always flabbergasted at how small a world advertising people live in. They only socialize with advertising people. They talk advertising, live advertising, breathe advertising. And this is something that has been promoted by the bravado school of creative directors. And I think that being stuck in an office, proving that you're working hard, is counterproductive and gives you all very small lives. I know since I've left agencies that my life has got bigger. The scope of people that I meet, the range of people that I meet, the things that I do, the places that I go are so much wider and make me a better person. I also think that this is a time when we need really empathetic leadership. As I said, some people are really suffering, and I think we need to be able to turn them into this feeling of positivity, particularly in a creative department. Creatives should be positive. We should be full of hope, and we should be spreading that. I think, everybody, again, is getting caught up in Corona time. And, how do we do Corona ads and this and Corona that and Corona that, blah, 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 blah. When actually, I think we should be looking at what's the new normal? How do we build the new normal? What does the new normal look like? What is going to be the best new normal for everyone? Vicky Ross answered this one perfectly in a podcast we did last week with Creative Brief. It was like, when you freelance, you get motivated because you need the paycheck. It's as simple as that. How do you get motivated to go to work every day? You get a paycheck. How do you get motivated to work from home? You need your paycheck. So I don't think that's any different. However, I really do genuinely believe that a lot of creatives are going to realize that all of those times when they gaze out of the window or pop down to the media department and have a chat with somebody because they just couldn't sit creating ideas anymore, are going to realize that, oh my goodness, you can actually stick a load of washing on when you're trying to solve a problem. Yeah, everybody's doing these motivational things like you must get up and you must get dressed and you've got to keep everything normal. This is not normal. If you want to spend all day in your pajamas, go for it, man. I've done some of my best work in a leopard skin dressing gown. Do whatever works for you. You can't bring the office to home. It just won't work. What you have to do is seamlessly integrate your work with your life. I've been a single mother who's run a business for 19 years. Now, yes, kids need routine. Yes, meal times need to be kept at the same time. But you don't have to keep time. When my kids were really little, I used to go to bed with them at like 7 o'clock at night. We'd all read a story and then we'd all clonk out. But I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd have 4 hours of absolute beautiful peace to get my work done. And then the other great thing about that during the day was if anything came up that stopped me from working, I didn't have any guilt because I'd already done half a day's work. In fact, I'd already done most of my day's work before my day even started. Now, that doesn't suit everybody, but there's ways that you can walk around things. As I said, there are walls. The world will give you the walls. The walls are the fact that your children are going to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and have to be out to school at 8 or onto their online class at 8. But there's no reason why you can't get up at 5 or 6 if you just want some time to yourself. There are plenty of ways of, if you can give away your concrete version of time and when time has to happen. Again, I'm finding that a lot of women in the group are I had spoken to a woman in the group the other day. She was like, oh my God, I'm going to be so fit when I come out of this. She said, because I do a Pilates class every single day. She said, all I have to do is like go into the lounge room. She said, I haven't missed one yet. She said, but you know, when it's down the road and she has to get up and she has to get dressed and she's got to drive there and she's got to park, she doesn't do it anywhere near as often. So I think, you know, we all need to look at what's positive out of this. Business is crying out for soft skills. And I think business is going to cry out for soft skills more and more and more after this crisis. Now, I've been saying for the last year that motherhood is the Ivy League of soft skills training. And that if you can run a family, you can run a business. Now, I think after this, it's going to be much, much easier for us to go out there and start talking about running a family as a business operation. And that particularly for women, that having children is not a career break, but you're actually building up business skills. And I think business is actually going to start to recognize just how much we juggle and how much we multitask, and how brilliantly we negotiate both parts of our lives. Because I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where those two are separate anymore. I think there is going to be an integration of life and business like there has never been before. I really do hope that the advertising industry and brands and marketers really do come out of this giving us a sense of hope, and to lose the sense of fear. We've just all been through something absolutely terrifying. And I think it's time for us to celebrate humanity, but more than just clapping for the NHS on a Thursday night or the people that have helped us where we were in trouble. I hope that when we come out of this, that we actually have a much more rounded view of just how much we need each other.